Hi, it's me, Heather, and it's Nutrition Monday. We're talking about, in week 4, we're talking about emotions causing a commotion. So I want to take some time today on Nutrition Monday and actually talk about how hormones can affect your emotions, of course, and then how what we eat can affect our hormones and vice versa. So I want to take a little bit of time to talk about the 3 sex hormones: estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So we're going to talk about those real briefly, and then, like I said, we're going to just mention how the foods that we eat affect our hormones and how our hormones can affect what we crave and what we want to eat. So bear with me for a moment. We're going to pull up this, and there we go. So when we're talking about hormones, I can actually go back here. Let's just talk a little bit about what estrogen does. So there are 3 different types of estrogen in our body. I didn't know that until I actually started doing some research with the hormones. So there's estriol, which is the main estrogen that's used during pregnancy. Estradiol, which is the most common type of estrogen that women have in childbearing years. And then there's estrone, which is the only estrogen that your body makes after menopause. When your period stops. So there's actually 3 types of estrogen. Estrogen does a variety of things in our body. It helps with over 400 critical functions. One of the things it does, it helps to regulate your blood pressure, enhance your energy, improve your mood, increase your sexual interest, regulate body temperature, help prevent Alzheimer's disease, and it can help prevent muscle damage and help to maintain your muscle mass. If you have low estrogen, you can have irritability, bloating, headaches, fatigue, and depression. Some causes of estrogen deficiency would be perimenopause, so that's the stage you're in before you actually hit menopause, and that can be, for a few months all the way up to 10 years. Like, you can be in perimenopause for a long time where your period cycle will change. You'll have scanty periods. You might have a longer period or shorter period. That can vary, the time frame for each woman, and probably it's going to depend on your mother and your grandmother and their experience with that. But menopause is obviously when your period stops, so you're going to have some estrogen deficiency there, especially if that estrone, that third estrogen there, if it's not producing as much as it should, then you're going to see that estrogen deficiency because you don't have the childbearing estrogen anymore. Or if you have the premature ovarian decline. So if your ovaries have, for whatever reason, declined prematurely, you're going to see the estrogen deficiency. Most people, this is the slide I started out with, have a problem with estrogen dominance. So when females or even males make the comment that they feel hormonal, this is probably what they're talking about most of the time. So estrogen dominance is basically talking about estrogen dominating the progesterone balance. So those 2 hormones should be in balance in your body. So if you have too much estrogen in your body and not enough progesterone to balance it out, you're going to have an imbalance. And you can have mood swings and depression around your cycle time. You can have weight gain. You can experience breast tenderness and edema, which is swelling. Variations, skip cycles, infertility, just different issues there. Vaginal dryness or itchiness, excessive or scanty blood flow during your periods. You can have insomnia, night sweats, fatigue, and tons more. So some of the things that cause estrogen dominance are, here we go with the nutrition part for Nutrition Monday: diets low in grains and fibers. So what I've learned is it's not only important to eat the right types of food for weight loss and weight management, but it really plays a big factor in all of the other things in our body. So in the hormone balance, and like I said, the hormones are the regulators of your body, so you want to make sure you keep that, your diet proper, so you can keep those hormones in balance. So diets low in grains and fibers can cause estrogen dominance. You can also, if you have an elevation of 16 hydroxyestrone, which is a very specific type of estrogen, you wouldn't know you had that dominance unless you actually had some tests run. Environmental estrogens can be cause for estrogen dominance, and those can be found in the chemicals that you use to clean. Sometimes when you get those type of things in your system, your body sees it as a false estrogen, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and then it will make your estrogen levels higher because it thinks you've got more estrogen, when in fact it's just this thing in your body that's there. Lack of exercise can cause estrogen dominance, so another reason to make sure you carve out some time in your week, in your day, to exercise. Impaired elimination of estrogen, so your body's just not real good at metabolizing the estrogen. And obviously, if you take too much estrogen, if you're taking an estrogen, that's going to cause an estrogen dominance. Xenoestrogens are those estrogens I talked about that can be found in the environment sometimes. They're false estrogens, but they have an estrogenic activity. So when these things get in your system, your body sees them as estrogen, and then it makes your estrogen levels higher. Like I said, a lot of cleaning products have things that will mess up your hormones. So since I have had issues with my hormones, I really try to use very natural cleaners. I use essential oils to do some cleaning. I've got some natural cleaning products that have a lot of the chemicals taken out, like bleach, ammonia, all those kind of things. So just watch what you're putting in your body and around your body, in your house, and that type of thing. Progesterone is another one of the sex hormones, and like I said, that's the one that usually helps to balance out the estrogen. And what progesterone does is, like I said, balances estrogen. It has a positive effect on your sleep. If you're having some issues with sleep, you might be having some hormonal imbalances. Progesterone helps to build bone, helps prevent anxiety, irritability, and mood swings. So here we are again, we're talking about emotions causing a commotion this week. So your hormones can very much so wreak havoc with your emotions. The progesterone in our body also helps the bladder to function properly, and it relaxes smooth muscle in the gut so your body can break down food into nutrients that is absorbed to be used elsewhere. So if your progesterone levels are off, your gut's going to be affected. And if your gut's affected, then the food that you put in your body is going to be broken down, and it's not going to be able to be used as it was intended because the whole cycle is messed up. So as you can see, everything is real interrelated in our bodies. So when we have hormonal imbalances, you can have anxiety. I love Anxiety Girl, so she's able to jump to the worst conclusions in a single bound. Low progesterone, if you have low progesterone, you can have anxiety, decreased HDL levels, which is the good cholesterol, decreased libido, depression, excessive menstruation, hypersensitivity, insomnia, irritability, migraine headaches prior to your menstrual cycle, mood swings, nervousness, osteoporosis, pain and inflammation, and weight gain. So you combine your low progesterone symptoms with the high estrogen symptoms, and that's where you got that estrogen dominance, and you are a mess. When I found out several years ago, when I had my hormones checked, my estrogen level, I think I'd mentioned in a previous video, was really high. It was pretty much high my whole entire cycle. They did a thing where they tested my saliva, actually, and I had to collect a tube of saliva every certain day of the month that, I tracked. It was day 1, 5, 8, something like that. And I collected about 12 vials of saliva for the whole month, and they could do a little, show me a whole month cycle, because your estrogen level and your progesterone, it should vary during your cycle. Sometimes it should be high, then it should dip down low. It just follows your period. So my estrogen was really high. My progesterone was not real low, but it was lower. So I was definitely having some imbalances there. Here again is where we can tie in the nutrition factor for Nutrition Monday. Causes of low progesterone. Antidepressants. So if you're on an antidepressant, that can really mess with your hormones. And when we talk about essential oils, there's actually some really great essential oils that can help with depression, and they don't have the side effects that the medications have. So if you've never tried an essential oil for that type of thing, I would suggest giving it a try. So decreased thyroid hormone. So if you've got low progesterone, it could be because your thyroid hormones aren't right. You could have a deficiency in vitamins A, B6, C, and zinc. So again, that ties into nutrition, where you might need to supplement your diet by taking a multivitamin. We talked about multivitamins before. Excessive arginine consumption. So that is actually a particular amino acid. You just have to check what you're taking, what you're eating, to see if you're getting excessive arginine. You could also just have low progesterone because you have an impaired production of progesterone. And actually your progesterone is going to be, a lot of that's going to be produced in your adrenal glands. So if you are stressed all the time, then your progesterone levels are probably going to be affected because you can't do both. You can't be stressed. Your adrenal glands can't be pumping out all the stuff that it does when you're stressed and be producing enough progesterone. Stress, like I said, just mentioned, it can cause low progesterone. Sugar, so there again is where we can tie in the food element. So sugar can cause low progesterone, and saturated fat. So again, we saw we need to have a good diet with grains and fiber. We need to have low sugar and low saturated fat if we're tying the talk with the estrogen and the progesterone in. And then vice versa. So when you have the low progesterone, we saw what causes that. High progesterone, really the only way you can have high progesterone is if you take too much progesterone. So that would be something you probably got in a prescription. You can also get a progesterone cream. Usually you can get that at the health food store. So you just want to make sure if you're trying to balance your hormones out that way that you're it's really best to have your hormones tested. If you're going to actually take a cream, a progesterone cream, and use it, so you know you're not getting too much progesterone. There are essential oils that help with balancing hormones, and again, they're going to be your body's going to take what it needs and use what it needs, but it's not going to so it's going to take some hormone or some essential oils, and it's going to help bring your progesterone levels up, but it's not going to shoot your progesterone levels too high with the oils. It's just basically helping your body to heal and function the way it should. Testosterone is the third hormone we're going to talk about today, and that is made in the adrenal glands and the ovaries. And that's another reason why if you're stressed, your testosterone level will be affected, because your adrenal glands, if they're constantly making your adrenaline, your norepinephrine, your epinephrine, then they're going to be really tired, and they're not going to be as efficient to make the testosterone as it would if you were found a better way to handle your stress. And incidentally, when I had my hormones checked, my testosterone level was not even registering on the chart. It said below this number. So my testosterone was very low. Functions of testosterone: it's going to decrease your bone deterioration. So it's a great thing to help keep your bones strong. It decreases your body fat. It elevates norepinephrine. It helps to maintain memory. It's going to help to increase muscle mass and strength, increase a sense of emotional well-being, self-confidence, and motivation, and it's going to increase your sexual interest. If you have a low testosterone, you can have all these symptoms here on the slide. Anxiety, a decrease in muscle tone, decreased HDL, decreased sex drive, droopy eyelids, dry, thin skin with poor elasticity, dry, thinning hair, fatigue. You can be hypersensitive, hyper-emotional, have less dreaming. You can have a loss of pubic hair, low self-esteem, mild depression, muscle wasting, so your muscle just kind of wastes away, saggy cheeks, and weight gain. So you can see all the symptoms that happen when your hormones aren't in balance with the, high estrogen or the low estrogen, the low progesterone, here the low testosterone. Some causes of low testosterone are adrenal stress or burnout. So again, that stress plays a huge factor in your hormones. And then your food, what you eat affects your stress, what you eat affects your hormones, what your hormones affect what you crave, your hormones affect your stress. So it's all interrelated. Birth control pills can cause low testosterone. Chemotherapy, childbirth, cholesterol-lowering meds, depression, endometriosis, menopause, a psychological trauma, or surgical menopause. So all these things can cause low testosterone. Ways to increase testosterone: here again, we're going to pull in the nutrition factor for Nutrition Monday. You want to decrease your calorie intake. So that's also going to help you lose weight, but one way you can increase your testosterone is to decrease your calorie intake. But when you're talking about calorie intake, you never want to drop below 1,200 calories a day, because then your body will actually go into starvation mode unless you're on some doctor-supervised medical weight loss program. You always want to keep 1,200 calories at least in your day. Exercise is going to increase your testosterone level, getting enough sleep, increasing the amount of protein in your diet, losing weight, practicing stress reduction, taking arginine, leucine, or glutamine. Those are all amino acids. And then zinc actually will help you metabolize testosterone. So again, we see this theme of supplementing your diet with a multivitamin, multimineral, losing weight, exercising, reducing your stress, increasing the amount of protein to increase your testosterone, decreasing the amount of sugar and saturated fat to increase your progesterone levels, eating a diet that's got a lot of fiber and whole grains to help your estrogen levels balance out. So it all comes together. It all comes together. Testosterone everywhere. That's just a fun slide with the Toy Story group there. So some symptoms of too much testosterone, here's all these symptoms. Acne, agitation, anger, anxiety, changes in memory, decreased HDL, depression, fatigue, fluid retention, hair loss, hypoglycemia, increased insulin resistance, increased risk of developing breast cancer, infertility, irregular periods, mood swings, salt and sugar cravings. There again, you're going to see how your hormones can affect your cravings for your food, and then weight gain. So it is so related. You really are what you eat. And then I'd mentioned a little bit about how the oils can help, but we'll talk more about how oils help emotions and stuff on Oil Thursday. So that is our talk today. And that's all I have for Nutrition Monday for our week 4, Emotions Causing a Commotion. Thanks for joining me, and we will talk on Tuesday about Oil Tuesday. So we'll talk more about oils, how they can affect your emotions, and that type of thing. So thanks for joining us today, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. Talk to you later. Bye.